Okay, I looked through the assignments from Thursday and a couple of them I had yesterday, and I saw some trouble spots, okay? Which, if you continue to do, and I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy here, are going to just burn you later on. So, what I've made, first off, I'm only going to do 4 problems instead of 8. 8's probably, And you need to rip this off, and this is like a checklist sheet. Don't write on it, okay? You just follow steps 1 through 5 and make sure you're doing everything kind of the correct way. So first off, I look at the equation, negative 36x to the second power plus 12x. And first off, I want to know how many answers I'm trying to find. Well, since the x is to the second power, that's going to be looking for 2 answers. Okay, now list the types of x that you have. So I go up here, and I have an x to the second power and an x to the first power. So I'm going to put x second and x. You can put a first power, but I would suggest you just put x. Okay, make sure you have equals 0. You do, okay? Then underline the big guys, okay? That would be the negative 36 and the 12, okay? Okay, now you go into your process of the GCF. Please make the box, please. It will help a lot coming up. GCF space parentheses. And then try to put your equals 0 right there. Now, to figure out a GCF, now that you see it in front of you, I think you can do it, okay? First, it says negative. Well, you look in front of the problem and see if there's a negative. There is. Okay, so we put a negative there. Now, x. Well, look on your lines, the big numbers, and see if x, you have some kind of x connected to both of them. Yeah, you do, so you also need to put x. Okay, now it says number. Okay, negative, question mark, x, question mark. We dealt with those. Now we look for a number. Now, you can use the GCF. You can punch 12 and 36 into that GCF calculator. Again, if you don't have that or your phone doesn't get the internet, you take your smaller number, the 12, and break it into all of its factors. So 1 and 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. If you divide 12 by 3, you get 4. And then you're just a 4, which you already have. So I say, okay, can I divide 36 by 12 without getting a decimal? Well, yeah, I do. Go on my calculator. 36 divided by 12 is 3. And then 12 obviously divides by itself. So negative 12x is the GCF. Now here's what it says. You will put the GCF under the lines to show the division. Okay? So you need to put negative 12x under both lines. So negative 3 divided by negative 12 is 3. Okay? And by the way, out here you put the negative 12x. Your GCF goes right here. Okay, whatever you're dividing by goes to the outside. Negative 12x. Okay, then I get positive 3, and x to the second divided by x means I need to write x down. And then I take positive 12 divided by negative 12, that's negative 1, so I write minus 1. And if I'm dividing by x, they're identical, so they can just cancel. Okay, you really need to set that up just like that. Okay, now you can go to your F1, F2 and solve. F1, F2. Okay, so inside F1 I have negative 12x. That means negative 12 times x could equal 0. In F2, I have 3 times x minus 1. 3x minus 1 equals 0. And F stands for factoring, okay? Divide by negative 12. Divide by negative 12, so my first one's 0. Then I box up 3x, so plus 1, 3x. 0 plus 1's 1. Now, look at what you have. The answer is not 3. This means 3 times some number equals 1. Well, the only way you can multiply 3 by a number and get 1 is if it's a fraction. Okay, so I divide by 3, and that's nice. It's 1/3. Okay, so 0 and 1/3 are the two answers. Okay, next problem. Back to this. How many answers? There'd be 2. List the types of x you have. Okay, you'd be happy you do this later. You have x to the second, and you have a plain old x. Okay, so that means you're going to have to use factoring. So make sure you see your equals 0. Underline the big dogs. Okay. Now I can go to my GCF box. Okay. Now, when figuring out the GCF, you see if you have a negative in the front. Oh, I do. Make it negative. Do you have X on top of both lines? Yeah, you do. Oh, X. Okay, now for a number, you can punch 6 and 24 into the GCF calculator, or you can take the smaller one, 6, and split it into factors. So 1, 6, 2, 3, and then you're just back to 3. Okay, now 6 is the largest number. Now, 6 obviously divides by 6 without a decimal. It's 1. 24 divided by 6 is not a decimal either. That's 4. So therefore 6 is going to be my greatest common factor. Negative 6x though. Now, you will put the GCF under the lines to show the division. Okay. Okay, whatever I'm dividing by, whatever under the lines comes out here. And I take negative 6 divided by negative 6, that's 1. X to the second divided by x is x, so it's 1x. Now I take positive 24 divided by negative 6. Well, that's negative 4. So I put minus 4. If it's a negative, you put subtraction. Then x over x cancel out. Okay, now you parenthesize that. Now you have your F1 and your F2, and now you can solve it. Okay, so F1, negative 6 times x can equal 0. F2, 1x minus 4 can equal 0. So I divide by negative 6. That's 0. I add 4 to both sides. So I have 1 times x equals 4. Well, then it's 4. How many answers? 2. List the types of x you see in the equation. Well, you got x to the second and you have x. So my x's are not like terms. So we need to have equals 0, but I don't have equals 0. Okay? So I'm going to subtract 18x. And we're going to we can't subtract it from 12, so I put it in no man's land right there. So I rewrite the equation. Now over here, you're just going to have 0. And over here, I'm going to have 12x to the second power minus 18x. Now I'm ready to roll. GCF. Underline the big guys, okay? GCF, 3 things you look for in a GCF. Do you have a negative in front? No, 12 is the first number, it's not negative. Do you have x on every number? Yeah, you at least have some kind of x, so I put x, and then you can punch to find the number that 12 and 18 are divisible by, the greatest common factor. You can enter 12 and 18 into the GCF calculator, or you can split your smaller number into factors and see what 18 will divide by. So 1 and 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then I just do 4, but I know that's 3. But okay, now 12. On your 18 divided by 12 is 1.5, so 12 is not the GCF. The next biggest number is 6. 18 divided by 6 is 3, so that's good. That means that'll be the GCF. So 6x goes here, okay? And you will put the GCF under the lines to show the division. 12 divided by 6 is 2. X second divided by x is x, okay? Negative 18, I call that 18 a negative because it has a minus. Negative 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. So if I got a negative, I'm going to put a minus 3. And then if I'm dividing an x by an x, identical x's get canceled out. So now I do the F1, F2, and solve. So I know that 6 multiplied by x could equal 0. Or another scenario is 2 multiplied by x minus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to divide by 6, I get 0. I need to add 3 to both sides, so 2 multiplied by x is 3, so I'm guessing it's a decimal or fraction. Divide by 2, divide by 2. You can either put 1.5 or you can just leave it 3 over 2. Okay, negative 16x to the second power equals negative 24x. How many answers? 2. List the type of x that you have in the whole equation. That's x to the second and x. Okay. Equals 0. I don't have an equals 0, so I need to add 24x. And that can't be added to negative 16 because x squared and x are not like terms. So I add 24x in reject zone. Okay, now over here is 0. There's nothing over there. Over here we have negative 16x to the second power plus 24x. Now underline the two big guys. Rare there. Okay, now I'm ready to make my GCF box. Okay, now next up box, we're at GCF. 3 things. Negative in front. 16 is the first number, and it is a negative. Do you have X on both lines? Yeah, you do. So you also put an X with the negative. Now we can punch in 16 and 24 into the GCF calculator. Or if, again, your phone doesn't connect to the internet or you can't have a phone, you take your smaller number, the 16, and break it into its factors. So 1/16, 16 divided by 2 is 8. 16 divided by 3 is a decimal, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. So I got twin factors. Well, the largest number is 16. So can you divide 24 by 16 and not get a decimal on your calculator? You better try it on your calculator. No, you can't. It's 1.5. That is not going to cut it. 8. Can you divide 24 by 8 and not get a decimal? I think you can. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So negative 8x is the GCF. Pull it out. You will put the GCF under the lines to show the division, because I don't want to look in here and see a bunch of weird crap because people refuse to put the negative 8x under the lines. So negative 16 divided by negative 8 is 2. And then, again, x second, I have it right here, is always x. 24 divided by negative 8 is negative 3. So if I got a negative, I'm going to write subtract 3. And then these can cancel out. Okay, now I can do my F1, F2. So negative 8 times x could equal 0. Or 2 times x minus 3 equals 0. Divide by negative 8, divide by negative 8. 0 divided by negative 8 is 0. Plus 3, So 2 multiplied by x is 3. And I'm actually going to get the same answers I did on the last problem. 3 over 2.